Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Hi, Trina. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get to speak with you today.
I'm excited to speak with you as well. You have a interesting background. You spent, 20 years in banking?
I did 20 fun years traveling around the country. It was fun.
Wow. So go ahead and just tell the listeners, give us a little bit about you and how you became the Catherine that you are today.
That's a good question. I'll try to keep it simple for you. I started out in banking. I actually started out as a bank teller and took all those bank teller positions that nobody wanted in those branches that they could never find any placements. So I started out there in the branches and got curious to see, well, how far can this go? And over the years, I spent about 12 years with a bank that's headquartered in the Southeast U.S., and traveled around there in their 5-state territory to help grow their business on the deposit side. And then from there, I've stayed in touch with my network and was recruited to go over to another bank called Farm Credit, which is still a bank, but it only supports agriculture and rural communities. And so I spent a good number of years on the deposit side, but this bank doesn't take deposits. They only lend money. And so I helped support huge lines of credit going out into these communities. And it wasn't just the funding, but it was also all the technology, backroom operations, and call reporting, GL systems, all marketing, anything you needed to run a business. We provided all those services to them. So it was a great opportunity to kind of go on the other side. And it was also similar in the sense that we had 42 charter banks with my community bank that I was working with in the Southeast. And then I went over to Farm Credit and they only had 19 customers. So it's a very unique situation where you have a holding company or you have a parent company and then you have the subsidiaries, and you don't always have that direct influence and reporting. So you've got to get creative on how people can work together and break down silos. So that was a similarity between two different roles. And a few years before I went out on my own, I reached out to a coach and said, I want to keep growing. I want to keep giving. And I think I've gone as far as I want to go here. So what's next? And so she helped me figure out that path. And about 2 years ago, I went out and started my own leadership coaching and consulting business. And I've been coaching groups as large as 16 people at one time, and as well as individuals. And they have all been able to create 100% measurable success as recognized by their peers and their stakeholders with this coaching process. So it's been a lot of fun. It's very rewarding to be able to take my experiences and my mistakes and be able to share them with others and be able to see them grow and get recognized by their peers for their success that they're making.
Wow, that's really amazing. Just your whole journey being in banking, and then now you have a business of your own where you're doing leadership coaching. And it's funny when you leave your career that you've worked so hard for it to journey off on your own, which I know can be kind of scary, but you seem to be doing well. And I was looking at your website and it says you are a connector and a networker. And as you were giving your background, I was like, yeah, I see how she, decided to do that and how you fit with that. And what I like to talk about with my guests is I like to talk about successes as well as your failures. So you said, you figured that, you grew as far as you could grow in the banking industry and you decided to move on. But how long did it take you to come to that conclusion? Was it hard to leave your 9 to 5 to do this? Because there are some things that you have to consider when you decide to leave, that steady paycheck.
Yeah, there's a lot to take into consideration. And I know that I've been married for a little over 20 years. So we got married kind of young. And when I look back on it, my husband has always been an entrepreneur. And I just kind of joked. And it was just a running joke with us, with our friends, that I would provide that steady paycheck, for the first half of this, working relationship, first 20 years. And then it was going to be his turn. And so I was going to say, Tag, you're it after 20 years. And I think it's scary because, when you write down a goal and you write down things and then sure enough, it actually like happens. And so it scares me that I write this stuff down, just small things that you want to accomplish. But then I've always just verbally said, I want to retire. And retirement for me is just being able to control more about who I'm going to work with and who I'm going to engage with. And so, I just joked on the weekends after, traveling 60% of the time. I just said, I'm getting closer. It's almost been 20 years. Your time's coming. And so a lot of people didn't think I was going to do it. I know a month before I was going to turn in my letter of resignation, my husband thought, you're not going to do it. It's just big talk. And I said, no, this is like the best I've ever felt. And even before that, I took a practice week off, just to make sure that I can mentally handle having 5 full days of not going into the office, and had lined up appointments to go meet with people and network and, just drive around to different metro cities, had lined up some lunches. And at the end of that week, I felt so energized and so happy and so free that it just was another thing. So there were a lot of just small things that led up to this experience. Hiring coach 2 years before I went out also helped me make a lot of small wins along the way. So it created this momentum that allowed me to feel like this is the right next step. So nothing happened overnight, and it was a long process in the planning. And you're right, you've got to look at your finances, and what are you really spending? What are you really saving? And I've always tried to maintain that paycheck, to stay a certain amount. And then as I got raises over the years, that is what went into, retirement accounts and HSA accounts and investment accounts and anywhere else that I could put it. So somebody told me a long time ago, try to keep that as minimal as possible. And when you do get that bonus or that raise, spend a little, but make sure you maintain your cost of living and put the rest of that in that savings account for down the road. And true freedom, I also read another book, is to have this, or true happiness is to have that freedom to be able to make your choices and to be able to do that at 20 years into a career is a gift.
Well, I love what you said about getting a coach because you're a coach. I do coaching as well, but the great coaches have coaches.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they fail to realize that you're always evolving, you're always learning. You can't just say, oh, I'm here, I'm done, I'm a coach, and that's it. So I really love what you're saying. And you said 2 years you spent with a coach.
Yeah, and it was a leap of faith. I found someone that was actually in South Carolina, which is great because normally, you don't find somebody who's local. And we did a sample, kind of a session that was just to try it out. And then I said, okay, let's do it. And so we jumped in, and she said it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I thought, ugh, I don't know if I want to do this, but you know what? I mean, I just, how you could feel something that you're just ready for it. So I said, okay, here we go. And, it got a little messy before the clarity came. So yeah, hiring that coach held me accountable and helped me create those small wins that allowed me to kind of break out.
Wow, great. And so when you finally did make the jump, what was your husband's reaction?
That's a great question. I think he just kind of shook his head like he normally does when we buy a house that's a fixer upper, and it sounds good at the front end, and then afterwards you're like, oh my god, you look around, you're like, oh, there's no closets and the ceiling's falling in. So just that, oh my, why do we do this? So I saw that same kind of look on his face, but then at the same time, he saw I was just incredibly happy, and there's just that freedom that comes with it that I never really thought was going to happen. And he just said, if you're happy, then this is what we're going to do. We'll figure it out.
Figure it out exactly. And that's what entrepreneurship is a lot of figuring out. It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen overnight. And how were you affected by this pandemic that we're living through? How did business fare for you?
I was very fortunate with my network, and I've always studied under some different folks that believe in find the struggling moment of the client, find the struggling moment of your prospect, and help solve for that problem. And lead with value. Don't lead with what I want, but lead with how can you help someone else. And as a result of that, it worked out great. I picked up quite a few coaching clients from people that value the coaching and needed to grow their talent, which was great. And then because I've got 20 years of just doing B2B, business to business selling and business development, I was working with a company in upstate New York and helped them double their business in 90 days. And I knew I felt like I was getting back into that corporate environment. And it just was like, it was fun in the beginning, kind of that honeymoon, you're excited to grow some business and you're back in your comfort zone. And then it's like, gosh, this is not where I really thought I was going to be. And I was still coaching and, I love having multiple projects going out at the same time. And I was explaining to them, well, here's a very simple sales process and here's 3 steps, boom, boom, boom. And, let's do it. And as I talked to them, I realized they didn't have that structure in place.
Mm.
And so what I realized was I could take 20 years of knowledge and be able to package it up and be able to pitch it back to them and say, you're a startup company, you're doing a phenomenal job. You're hiring maybe some younger talent or folks that just need to brush up on some of this stuff. And so here, let me put together this package. And then I was able to do case studies for them because I was familiar with their business model and be able to turn it over to them. And from that experience, then I also was able to repackage the same sales B2B process. How do you grow your business when you can't not go get out in front of people face to face? And so packaged it up and piloted that program, and it was a successful pilot as well. And so, given just all this terrible stuff that's been going on, I love when we're given these kind of crazy opportunities and start thinking creatively to get out of them and try to leverage it as best as you can and try to be optimistic. So, despite all the sadness that's going on, I think there's also been a lot of opportunity for a lot of people who want to make changes and want to see that the glass is half full and go out there and give it a shot. So, um,
Mm.
it's been a pretty great year.
I love that. I love what you said about there's opportunities to look at the glass full, and I like what you said when you went to your client and you said, "Okay, this is where their problems are, and I know how to solve that with all of my years of experience." And I think that's the key. I think a lot of times people think that you have to have some grand idea to start your own business. And a lot of times it's just what we already know as our expertise on what we know and helping someone else to who doesn't know. Because I think a lot of times we think, well, if I know that, everybody knows that.
That's so true. I was listening to a podcast earlier, Trina, and it talked about how, all we're doing is just repeating the same stuff that everybody's been saying for years. I mean, storytelling's been around since Aristotle. And all we're doing is we're following the same process, we're following the same information that's always been out there. But what makes it different is you connect with people in a different way. I
Mhm.
connect with people in a different way. And sometimes, I've seen research that adults have to hear things 16 times before it finally connects. And so maybe you or I are finally the 16th person that they heard
Mhm.
it. And all of a sudden, it's a game changer for those individuals. So we can't give up on that. And just if we hear a no, it's just one less no before we get to that yes. And yeah, just staying optimistic and staying focused on how we can help others solve their problems is kind of fun.
Yeah, and I love your mindset because you are so much like me because you're talking service. It's not about, oh, how much money I can make. I want to be this rich person in the world. You're saying, okay, how can I help other people? And I think when you have that kind of mentality, it's easier for you to succeed and actually go out and do something that's fulfilling and rewarding to you. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree. I think we've all seen the research that says, $70,000 a year is all you really need to feel happy. And then at that point, you begin taking on additional debt or purchases, and then you begin to feel trapped. And, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you get out there and you land a few contracts, I mean, you're comfortable. And when you're serving and so your basic needs are taken care of. And so once you get your basic needs taken care of, if you can lead with kindness and lead with value and lead with helping other people, I believe it's going to come full circle and be able to. It's rewarding for me to be able to help other people, and the people that are successful that have just really paved an incredible path. They've been where we are, and they're willing to help other people like me or like anybody else that's just starting out. And so you try to attract those kind of people and just be around those kind of people. They energize you and they want to build you up. And so this is a great opportunity to find those people that are positive throughout this experience that we're all going through, and to gravitate towards those people and live off of that energy and just try to maintain some positivity, because in a world full of just all kinds of just unhealthy stuff, healthy, fun, supportive relationships, people want that. And if we can keep giving with that and leading with that, I think it's going to make us different than everybody else, and I think it attracts good things.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because we are in a world with so much noise and it's so much negativity going on. And it's so refreshing to hear someone say, okay, let's be positive. Let's go from a viewpoint of service and not just me, me, me. I think so many people in the world today, they have that, especially in business, they have that scarcity mindset. So, just like you were saying, how people have to hear things repeatedly and they may hear it from you and it may not resonate, but they may hear it from me or vice versa. But I think so many times people think, oh my goodness, if I help her, then that's going to take away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
it's not so.
no. And when you give, it I believe it comes back. So I really think it's just the right thing to do. And um, there's a lot of people out there who want to help and want to support other people. So, choose your friends wisely, I suppose.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about some of your hurdles when you became this successful entrepreneur, not just you're transferring from corporate, but as you were building, you got your coach to help you internally. But as far as the building and your systems and um, getting that network of clientele, tell us about how that journey was for you.
It was helpful with a coach because she's helped navigate a lot of people transitioning out of corporate and into being on your own. And it's a lot of just small wins, because it's not as if you have the team that you're used to having when you're working in corporate America. You don't have procurement, you don't have legal. You kind of go out on a leap of faith and a prayer and say, gosh, I hope this works out.
Yeah.
So, you read a ton of books, you listen to podcasts, and you really have to learn to trust your gut and jump in when it feels right and know when you need to say no. And a lot of it just goes back to the intuition that I think a lot of us sometimes we've tuned out because of the busyness that's in the world. And I've found that when I can try to trust my gut and what do I think is the right situation to get into, that's what's turned out to be well. And so um, some basic things that got me started was, just having the website and LinkedIn and being consistent. And I think overall consistency is what I'm beginning to see is beginning to click just a little bit. Consistency on LinkedIn and being able to lead with value every week and be able to share information that I'm learning, and also being able to have some soft call to actions. And a soft call to action may not be a direct commitment, but it may just be, here's a resource page that I offer that has services that don't commit you to anything. Here is, a recent podcast that I thought was a great resource, or here's a 20-minute virtual coffee if you want to connect. And from these consistencies and these very low call to action, soft call to actions, relationships begin to open up. And from that, there's a crawl, walk, run process. And we can't go out and hit and close every initial conversation that we ever have. And so that changes when you're in corporate. You can go in and they have a reputation already, and your bank and your company that you're working with, they already bring that stuff to the table. And when you're out by yourself, you're beginning to reestablish your relationship as a solopreneur. And so you can't hit them hard like you maybe could when you're in that corporate negotiations. And so, you crawl a little bit, you share some information, you share references, you just kind of educate them on what's available, and walk and just kind of court, a little bit. It's been a while since I've been out dating, but you've got to go through the courtship and see if it's a right relationship, not just for me, but also for the client or the prospect. And then the run, when they say, okay, we're ready to act. Well, that's great. So let's go ahead and put in the timeline. And here's what you can expect from me. And this is what I like to expect from you. And let's just go ahead and close the deal. So, having consistency, I think, is extremely important. Consistency, I have found on LinkedIn, because I feel like I connect more with just the professionals, and that's just the background that I have. And so LinkedIn is consistent. My newsletters are consistent, and I've made a bigger push to get onto podcast and be able to share my stories. And it's kind of a fun, creative outlet where I've got the writing for LinkedIn, and as a small town Southern female, we don't talk a whole lot at the big events around town. And so this is kind of fun to be able to connect with people and share my version of what my story is, and not be tied up in somebody else's story. So it's really kind of it's just been a really neat experience to be able to kind of hear my own voice and share my own stories as I see it. So consistency is key, but finding all these different ways to be consistent is has been fun.
I love what you said about the courtship,
Mm,
courting. And LinkedIn is like my primary platform as well. And I don't know if we're connected. If not, we need to connect. But
yes.
um, I want to know your opinion on this. And I'm pretty sure you've seen it. You get the person who asks for the connection request, and immediately it's oh, I can help you with this. I can sell this to you. And, I get so irritated with it because I'm going, okay, you asked me to connect. And then the next thing I know, you're trying to sell me, tell me what you can do for my business. And
Yeah.
it's like, why don't you try to get to know me first? How do
Right.
you feel?
Oh, I'm with you 100%. It's just, it's big turnoff. I mean, when you go out and somebody's, just hounding you for business, it's just not. I mean, maybe it's right for somebody, but I don't think it's right for the bulk of the people. It's not right for me. So, yeah, when I do see that, it's just red flag. It just doesn't click for me, and it's kind of funny. So I started dabbling in LinkedIn a couple years before I left corporate, because I thought, okay, this will be a nice way to be able to kind of see how networking can be done without going to a conference and exchanging a bank, business card or contact. And so I created a process, and it was on Saturdays. And my husband would take our elementary age son out of the house for just a couple hours. And I would start data mining on LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. And I was like, there's some really fascinating people. And then from going to my sales conferences, I've been to enough LinkedIn trainings to know that your university, if you go to school with someone, and go to school with someone and you have a second connection, the chances of that person accepting your request are 50% or higher. So I started doing, you can do different searches in LinkedIn. So I started doing searches for people that went to the same university, and then also second connections. And I used to just probably do too much research on them and say, "Oh, Trina, we both know so and so in Texas and da 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 da." And then I figured out, I can simplify it and just say, I saw we have some connections, and it'd be great to connect. And I just leave it at that. And I started doing that, and I realized when I sent out 100 requests, I had about 60% that accepted with that just very casual crawl type conversation. 60% accepted within 2 or 3 days. And then from there, I'd wait a week. I didn't pounce back on them, but I just said, if you ever want to grab a, a phone call, just to introduce each other and just talk about, what's working for our business and what opportunities we see out there. We'll keep it to 20 minutes and that'll be it. And so I'll get another 20% that are just networking,
Mhm.
like-minded business professionals. But you can also feel when they're pitching back at you that, it's just not a good fit. And I'm not looking to pitch at them. I don't want them to pitch at me. I just kind of want to know, what are you seeing in the market and what kind of
Mhm.
struggles are you seeing where you are? And it's just a great way to gather research and build a network that you're in control of. And you're reaching out proactively and getting to meet some people with some really great stories. I've learned so much, really fascinating stuff, just reaching out to people that are doing the same thing. So it's fun.
That was worth every minute of this podcast, just saying that, because like I said, I come across so many people, and with that approach that you have, I would definitely have accepted a request from you. But it's the ones that, and it's funny because I know it's a cookie cutter, because on LinkedIn, it has first name, last name, and I put my middle initial after my first name. So it's in that same thing. So when I see Trina L period, I was like, okay, this is cookie cutter,
Yeah.
and then you get the whole big spiel of, oh, I do this, I do that, I did. And I'm just so turned off. I have connected with more people who have done, like you said, and said, hey, you know, just saw you got an interesting profile, just want to connect. If you're ever in my city or whatever, look me up, we can have coffee.
Hmm.
And I love that. I mean, I even met I got to be pre-COVID traveling, that when I was out of town, I would go to the same little coffee shop every day. And this gentleman was there every day, and we just struck up a conversation. So we ended up connecting on LinkedIn. But it's those connections like that
Yeah.
that you like, that you learn the most from, and that you're willing to benefit. And then that way, if down the line, if it does come to a point where it's beneficial for both parties to do business or have a JV partnership or whatever, then you don't feel so bad about it. But in somebody, and it's funny, my coach, she's like, it's the equivalent of meeting someone today and saying, "Oh, I love you, let's get married."
Yeah. It
It's,
so is. You're right. That's a great analogy. It's
yes,
perfect.
so yeah, I just wanted to get someone else's perspective on that, because it's something that really irks me when I see that. Um, so in your business, go tell us who you work with, who are your clients, and how do you go about your coaching?
Yeah. So the clients that I've been working with, these are folks that are getting ready to go into the C suite, or they already are in the C suite. And so that's CEO, CFO, CMO, wherever that may be. Within the succession plan, there are individuals that are getting ready to maybe take that next step. And the HR manager knows that they can teach individuals the task. If you become the CEO, then, here's the reporting, here are the board meetings. This is like your task list. What we're finding is you can only teach so much of that, and there needs to be some human interaction and some leadership. And what got them into that position may not be as effective today as it was when they first got into the position. So, as I'm working with a few right now, they know that once they make the CEO selection, how well is this individual going to communicate with others within the organization to drive the change. And so communication styles need to alter slightly. Also, another one is being able to delegate effectively. And when you go up the ladder, you have got to start doing less. And so it's a shock to people that your new job is sitting in meetings and listening to other people and finding themes. And when you figure out what the theme is, figure out how to break that down to solve. So a lot of it is communication. And like Marshall Goldsmith likes to say, what got you here won't get you there. And so, you get to a certain point and you've been pigeonholed, maybe that you're just a really good manager, but they don't see you in that light of executive presence and being able to lead a large room of individuals. And so the process of coaching that I use is stakeholder centered coaching. And it was developed by Marshall Goldsmith and a few of his very close friends. And I studied it and was able to get certified for the individuals and the teams. And I love the process because it allows the leader to become recognized by their peers and their stakeholders as improving. And they actually take a survey, the stakeholders take a survey and say, did they improve on a -3 to +3? How much improvement did you see since we've been working on XYZ leadership? And so 100% of the folks that I've worked with so far, they've all accomplished those measured results as seen by their peers and their stakeholders. And to break down the process, it's called ask, listen, thank. And so you can think of the alt keys, ALT keys that are next to the space bar on most computers. So you've got alt, ask, listen, thank. And this is kind of the way to get it started. And you would very simply say, Trina, I want to get better at delegating. What are one or two things that I can do in this next meeting that's going to that helps me improve in delegating? And so you would give me one or two ideas. And so that's me listening. That's not me arguing. That's not me saying, well, Trina, you didn't see me do XYZ in before. And you don't understand. I can't ask Joe because Joe's like, I can't get him to do anything. So you don't give excuses, but you ask very clearly, what are one or two things I can do in the future to help my delegating? You listen, actively listen, and then you just simply say thank you. And by saying thank you, you're not committing to anything, you're not promising anything, but you say thank you, you go back, you reflect, you respond, you change if you want to. And the last little piece of gold is the follow up. So you follow back up with the stakeholder and you say this, much like the Army with your after action assessments. This is what happened. This is what I learned from it. These are the insights that I'm willing to do going forward. So, it's a forced reflection process. And the world is so busy that when we can have leaders create this repetitive reflection process of gathering information from folks in the field, and these people benefit if I get better at delegating. I benefit if I get better at delegating. It's a win-win. We're building people up. We're talking about the future. We're not talking about everything we did in the past that got screwed up. And so we're building people up. It's going into the future. And, for the past 40 years, it's been 95% successful that you are bringing the change that you want to be seen in your career, and you are bringing the change that you need other people to recognize you having to create in your career. And so it's hard to change other people's perceptions, but regular follow up and this communication process is pretty darn much going to guarantee, if you've got the guts to do it, to be able to deliver these results, that you will be seen, recognized as becoming a more effective leader.
I love that. That is so amazing because people think, oh, I'm a leader now, so I'm just going to give direction and tell people what to do. And they never think about, okay, there's things that I need to do as a leader to
Yeah.
become more effective. And that's brilliant. I mean, I think everybody should know about this because it's hard, like you said, to ask and just listen and then say, "Okay, thank you." Um, because that lets you know where you need your improvement at. And then to sit back and follow up on that and think, "Okay, yes, I can do this differently," or whatever the case may be. And when you go out and you're coaching and you're telling these executives this, what's the response and how long does it take you to get them to this point where they're actually listening to what you have to say about that?
I think they're in shock for a lot of this. They're in shock that the individual, their stakeholders, are saying what they're already thinking in their mind. Like they already know that they need to do this. And they think that if they put it out into the open, it's just going to be a shock to those people around them. And so there's almost like this piece of all of a sudden is, oh, they already know that I have this weakness. They already know that I need to get better at delegating. Oh, well, that's like half the battle is having this courage to be able to put it out there. Another shock is the suggestions that come back are a heck of a lot easier than the stories that they've been putting in their head, talking about how they need to do all this extra work and it's going to take more time. And I've got to retrain these people. And you don't have to retrain someone to delegate. You can begin to teach somebody and ask them to report back what they learned and create training off of it, and then have them be able to train the next person. And so you're empowering this talent by delegating it out. And they said, wow, I never really thought that asking a lot of these folks to take notes at the meeting and create a simple training PowerPoint to train the next people in would actually alleviate a lot of time in my calendar and empower them. And so, you hear Brene Brown talk a lot about the stories we tell ourselves. And I think it's all over management and leadership is, we tell ourselves these stories of, I can't do that, or it's been tried before, it'll never work, so and so will never like this. But these are the stories we're telling ourselves, and we really need to break out of that and just listen to the bare minimum that somebody else needs us to do. Um, there's a book out, How Women Rise. And I went to New York to study with Marshall and Sally, who wrote the book. And I read one of the 12 things that hold women back. And I tried it when I got back to the office. And I thought, and it was communication. And I thought, well, I need to work harder and I need to create more reports to show everybody what I've been doing. And what happened was I needed to communicate differently with my manager. I needed to have more soft, conversations, not, just here's the stats, here's the report, here's the results, but have a warm up, be able to talk about the solutions that were provided instead of just saying everything's done, don't worry about a thing. And so when I started having these kind of conversations with the manager, it like opened up doors that I had no idea. I didn't have to work harder. I just had to have a different type of conversation. And I got a much better result at the end of that than I ever could have by working 3 times as hard, solving as many problems or more. All I needed to do is communicate in a way that was more effective for that relationship. So, yeah, I told myself all kinds of stories in my head, and really, it was a waste of time and energy, and I just needed to try something new. So it's just funny.
I mean, it is, and it's funny because communication makes the world go around,
Oh yeah,
and so many people do it badly,
yes, yes,
and especially in leadership and in management, it's done so poorly, and then they're surprised when they don't get the results that they're looking for. And it's funny because when I do my coaching, like somebody said, well, they didn't do blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, did you clearly articulate that that's what you expected? Oh, well, yes, that makes a difference. You can't expect results if you're not, clear on what you're looking for.
yeah.
um
What's the end goal? Like, what does success look like? Tell me what success looks like, and let's make this happen.
right.
And a lot of people want to talk about here's the process of how you should XYZ. And really, as we're bringing in newer talent into organizations or people are getting reshuffled, which is perfectly fine, but just tell them what the end result is that you're looking for and give them the freedom because they could find a new way that can all of a sudden save you tons of money and time and get you the same results. And now you've got, a half a day free for this person to be able to do another project. So, yeah, give people the power to be able to make those mistakes and give it a shot.
I love that. And I'm glad you're saying that, let your people figure out how to do it. If you give them the direction and the task, let them take it on and complete it however they do. And it's funny because I tell my kids this when they were smaller, when they would do math, I would say, you can do a math problem several different ways, just as long as you come up with the right answer.
Hmm.
So math is an exact science, but you can do so many different things, but as long as you come up with the right answer, it doesn't matter whether I did it this way or you did it that way. But if we both come up with the same answer, that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
The
know,
result.
yeah, the result. And I think where that's the key piece of leadership that's missing. Um, we
It's
don't.
empowering people.
Yes,
And there's,
yes.
as you go up within an organization, I worked for one CEO and he said, I can hire doers all day long. I can get somebody to run an Excel report all day long. He said, I cannot find thinkers. They're not out there. I'm like, well, we got to empower these people. They're there. We have to give them that courage to be built up enough to be able to know it's okay to fail and be able to, tell them what the end result is and then let them go and, be okay if they make a mistake along the way. But yeah, the thinkers are hard to come by. And, we got to help leaders figure out how to give them the space to be able to think.
Yes. And I think the thinkers are often ignored because those are the people who show up at meetings and they have an opinion or they're voicing something and we dismiss them, or later on we punish them for saying something or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, that's the person who's actually thinking and may find that different way to do something or whatever. And you just cut that person down. So like you were saying, this gentleman was saying, oh, I can't find any thinkers. Well, he probably have come across some thinkers, but who knows, maybe somebody shut them up where they felt like I can't say anything because it's not going to be valued.
Yeah, kind of breaks your heart because you've got talent. Every organization has the talent, and for all we know, they could be stuck in that job. They may have a lot going on at home, and they just got to keep their head down and keep the job, and they just aren't given that opportunity to be able to rise up and be able to show what talent they bring to the table. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely. So I have enjoyed this. We're going to go into our questions.
okay.
So are you ready for those?
I'm a little nervous. I've listened to a few, and then I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go in and just be surprised and see how my gut tells me to answer.
And that's what it is. It's all about your gut. So no
Okay.
rehearsed answered. Okay. Who or what motivates you?
Um, Self improvement and just reading and podcast and learning motivates me.
Okay. What demotivates you?
Wasted potential.
Ooh, that's a good one. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
Hmm. This is kind of silly. So I was, we'll just say, encouraged strongly to play golf on the guys' high school golf tournament or golf team. And that was just something my parents wanted me to do. And I wasn't in favor. And it hurt like heck to go out there and play with these guys. So, but, if you can overcome being in the eighth grade and ninth grade playing with senior guys on the golf team, uh, it I guess it taught me perseverance.
Okay. What is your fear?
I have lots of fears, and I think lately it's been almost fear of the future. I've mentioned it earlier. I write things down, and then I get excited, and they come true. And so I've kind of gotten to the point where, gosh, how much do I really want to write down? What do I really want to come true? I don't know what's out there.
Hmm. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Hmm. I pretty much act on a lot. Probably more on the other side.
That's our next question.
um, yes, I have. I got very vocal with someone and expressed a lot of feelings that should not have been expressed over a real estate transaction. So, oh well, it's done
Yeah.
now.
So is that your something you wish you had not done?
I probably shouldn't have done that now. And I was like the most calm of the two people. And I totally blew it out.
I love it. Yeah, we could be friends.
Oh, it's a stick of dynamite. And I'm living next door to it now.
Oh. Yeah, maybe you should have said that. Okay. What is your definition of success?
Finding your happiness and finding your peace.
How do you recharge?
Completely by myself. Just leave me alone in a room with a book or the TV or just a blanket and a nap. Just let me be by myself.
What are you awesome at?
Maximizing pretty much anything. I can maximize square footage in a house, in a building. I can maximize, if you've got 3 ingredients, I think I could probably make something up. Just maximizing. I love doing that.
Okay. What legacy do you want to leave?
You can be fully successful anywhere, from anywhere in this country.
Wow, that was actually a good one. Do you have another motivational takeaway for the listeners?
I'm not very good at this. I'm working on it, but be kind to yourself and ease up on yourself.
So tell the listeners how they can connect with you. If you have anything to offer, tell us everything.
Perfect. Thank you, Trina. My website is catherinecantey.com, and that's with a C. And also, you can find me on LinkedIn at Catherine Cantey, and that will reconnect you back to my website.
Now, do you have anything forthcoming that you want to tell the listeners about?
We mentioned this before. I've got a sales course that's online, and it's how to grow business when you can't leave home. And I've been dabbling with whether or not I need to put that into a book. So I'm playing around with that idea right now.
So you're going to keep us posted.
Yeah, there may be more to come.
Well, we'll have to have you back then. So
that'd be fun.
Talk about it.
Thank you, Trina.
Catherine, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's in the evening for you, so I wanted to just say thank you. This has been great talking with you and getting to know you, and hopefully we'll stay connected.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Trina.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Trina Talk the Video. I hope you were inspired and motivated. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified whenever a new video comes out. If you're unable to watch the video, don't forget to go to iTunes and listen so that you can listen on the go wherever you are.